and not in one of the tower blocks. They had a garden in the back of their house and a square of earth in the front, although neither of these was kept up for planting. The house contained a sitting room and kitchen, 4 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. Michael shared a room with the younger boys. There were 5 of them in all, distributed in 2 sets of bunk beds. 3 of the older boys shared an adjoining bedroom. Only Richard, the eldest, had his own room, a privilege apparently having to do with Richard's propensity for committing acts of violence upon his younger brothers. Sue Spargo had a separate bedroom as well. Curiously, in interviews, she repeated several times that when any of the boys became ill, they slept with her and not with that lout Richard. On Michael's 10th birthday, the local police were called shortly after 7 in the morning. A family dispute had escalated to the point of causing a disturbance in the immediate neighborhood when the occupants of the house adjoining the Spargos' dwelling had attempted to intervene. Their later claim was that they were merely seeking peace and quiet. This is in opposition to Sue Spargo's allegation that they attacked her boys. However, a careful reading of everyone's ensuing interview with the police shows that a brawl between Richard and Pete Spargo began in the upstairs corridor of the Spargo house and grew from the latter boy's unhurried vacating of the bathroom. Richard's subsequent attack upon Pete was brutal, as he was quite a bit larger and stronger than his 15-year-old brother. It brought 16-year-old Doug to his assistance, which seems to have turned Richard and Pete into allies who then attacked Doug. By the time Sue Spargo waded into the fray, it had spilled down the stairs. When it appeared that she too was going to come under attack from Richard and Pete, 12-year-old David sought to protect her with a butcher knife from the kitchen, where he'd gone allegedly to make his breakfast. It was at this point that the neighbors became involved, roused by the noise, which they could hear through the badly insulated walls of the adjoining houses. Unfortunately, the neighbors, 3 in all, came to the Spargo residence armed with a cricket bat, a tire iron, and a hammer, and according to Richard Spargo's account, it was the sight of these that inflamed him. "Going after the family they were," was his direct statement, the words of a boy who saw himself as the man of the house, whose duty it was to protect his mother and siblings. Into this developing imbroglio, Michael Spargo awakened. "Richard and Pete was going at it with Mum," his statement recounts. "We could hear them, me and the little ones, but we didn't want nothing to do with it." He indicates that he wasn't frightened, but when probed for more information, it's clear that Michael did his best to give his older brothers a wide berth, so as to avoid a thumping if I looked at them crosswise. That he wasn't always able to avoid the thumping is a fact attested to by his teachers, 3 of whom reported to social workers bruises, scratches, burns, and at least 1 black eye seen on Michael's body. Other than a single visit to the home, however, nothing more came of these reports. The system, it seems, was overburdened. There is some suggestion that Michael passed on this abuse to his younger brothers. Indeed, from accounts gathered once 4 of the children went into care, it seems that Michael was given the responsibility of seeing to it that his sibling Stevie did not wee the sheets. Without resources as to how this was supposed to be accomplished, he apparently administered regular thrashings to the 7-year-old, who in turn took out his own rage on the other boys further down the line. Whether Michael abused any of the littler boys that morning is not known. He reports only that once the police arrived, he got out of bed, dressed in his school uniform, and went down to the kitchen with the intention of having his breakfast. He knew it was his birthday, but he had no expectation of the day being acknowledged. "Didn't care, did I?" was how he later put it to the police. Breakfast consisted of frosted flakes and jam rolls. There was no milk for the cereal. Michael brings up this point twice in his earliest interviews, so Michael ate the frosted flakes dry, leaving most of the jam rolls for his younger brothers. He put one of these into the pocket of his mustard-coloured anorak, both the jam roll and the anorak becoming crucial details as things developed, and he left the house through the back garden. He said his intention was to go directly to school, and in his first interview with the police he claims he did go there. This was a story he did not change until he was read the statement made by his teacher, attesting to his truancy that day, at which point he changed his story to confess that he went into the allotments, which were a feature of the Buchanan estate and which were positioned behind the terrace where the Spargos lived. There he might have give a bit of aggro to an old bugger working in a patch of veg, and he might have bashed in some shed door or something, where he could have nicked